I'm Mark Tuschman, and I'm here at Photo Central in Hayward, California. I've basically photographed and interviewed well over 100 immigrants from all walks of life, from the undocumented to those seeking asylum, DACA recipients, those with all different levels of visas, and finally to those with full citizenship. As a photographer, I really believe in the power of images and narratives and stories. One can argue endlessly about politics to no avail, and one can easily disregard or manipulate facts, but one can't ignore or disregard a person's life story. We really are a nation of immigrants, and unless you're a native born or you came here involuntarily as a slave, you could look at your own genealogy and either you or your grandparents or further back in your ancestry, they all came to America for the same reason. It was to escape fear and persecution, to build a better life for themselves, to educate their children, and to live in freedom and democracy. And that's why people are coming now. So thank you for being here. And we have some really wonderful speakers, and some of the people that I have photographed and interviewed are here. And I'd like to introduce Gissela Moya, who's undocumented. She recently just graduated from UC Berkeley.
So I'm originally from Honduras. With me sharing my story, I really just want to shed light a little bit to what it means to be Honduran during this time, what it means to be affected by everything going on in social media, the constant rhetoric against Central Americans, especially right now, and how that is impacting me right now. So I was born and raised in Honduras. I came here when I was 11 years old. Before all that happened, my dad left Honduras when I was 7, and my mom when I was 9. So I was mostly raised by my sisters for more than 5 years, and my older sisters were not that old. They were 18, 19, and 14. We were all women living in this house with our parents all the way over here. And today I was actually reflecting and thinking about what that meant to me to not have my parents for 5 years. And honestly, I think I try to block those memories because there's a cloud in my mind of when I didn't have them, when there was a Mother's Day, a Father's Day, and they were not there for me, you know? And you'll get to learn more about that and what that means. So I grew up with my sisters, and in 2007, my parents were like, you know, it's time for you to come. We experienced a tragedy with some of my family members, so we were receiving death threats, and we couldn't stay in Honduras anymore. Before coming to the U.S., I lived in Mexico, and I was there for 8 months. That's a story that is often not told. When I was in Mexico, I finished my 6th grade in Mexico, right? And it was one of the hardest times for multiple reasons. First, I was sleeping on the floor, on a mat, with mosquito nets. I hadn't seen my parents, and my parents are telling me, you're gonna come to this country while at the same time I'm sleeping on the floor. We were being mistreated by our caretaker. And at one point we had to move. I was bullied for my Honduran accent, an accent that now I have an English accent. But I never get rid of my accents wherever I go. And I took three days on a bus to get from Chiapas, where we were in Mexico, all the way to TJ. And after like 2 weeks of spending in TJ, that's when, you know, we got that call. It's gonna be time for you to cross the border. And only one of my sisters could come with me. Unfortunately, we got stopped. We got stopped by Border Patrol. And they said, oh, your ID, your accent doesn't match your ID or what the state says. So we were stopped, and my sister and I, we were separated into different rooms. And my sister went with one person, and then I was just there, 11 years old. And I just remember the CBP or the ICE officer just trying to make me laugh in light of what's happening, because I was 11 years old. and I didn't really know what was going on. And that's something that now is really stuck with me, because we're seeing all these family separations, but we're also seeing so many children dying and so many children in detention centers where they shouldn't be. And I know that that impact of me being separated during that time, even with my sister or even the officer trying to make me laugh, those are not things that we should be going through at that age. Eventually, Border Patrol decided to parole us in, and it was years later when I requested a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, which detailed what had happened when I got apprehended. And what it said was, they had already put in the paperwork for me to go into a detention center and to deport my sister. But my sister was 7 months pregnant, and they couldn't find space in a detention center for me because they were full. I always think, especially with what's going on right now, what would have happened if I would have been placed in a detention center? For how long? For how long would I be there? An 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old shouldn't be dying in detention centers to begin with. So eventually we finally reunited with my parents after 5 years, and that was a lot for me. Instead of being happy after not seeing them for a long time, I was actually disconnected from them. I didn't love them, and I couldn't tell them that I loved them. It took me years to tell them that I loved them. And so when we're talking about family separations, whether it's 1 month, whether it's 3 months, whether it's a year, it affects you a lot. It affects you a lot when you're a minor to begin with. But despite that, it took me years, like I said, and it was before I came to Berkeley that I told my mom for the first time, it affected me that I didn't see you for 3 years. Imagine not seeing your daughter, your kid, your son for those years. It's hard to imagine what you would feel to not have your sibling, to not have your mom next to you. And we take it for granted a lot of times. And she told me, it was also hard for me. I didn't have any of my daughters. And I never had understood that, what it meant for my mom to not have all her children. And one of my sisters is still in Honduras, and she was the one that stayed behind. And I haven't seen her in 12 years. So this spring, I just graduated from UC Berkeley. And it was not easy at all. And this semester was probably the hardest semester that I've been dealing with. Part of it was because my brother-in-law came in the migrant caravan that started in October. And just 4 days ago, he was deported to Honduras. And now my sister is going to migrate this month. And I don't know what that means for my family, to see her again after 12 years. I don't know what none of this stuff means most of the time. I'm navigating, becoming a professional, while at the same time holding all these feelings inside me. And I share my story mostly because a lot of times no one gets to tell them. And because this is something that is going currently right now. And because all these sad things that I'm sharing with you is what someone's going through right now. Someone's making that decision, whether it is their parents making that decision to come, or someone is migrated by themselves alone, or someone is getting reunited. It's happening right now. And I don't know what this will mean. And I hope you get to realize we're in a room that I think people care for each other, but that whole country might not. And those are little fights that we struggle internally a lot of times, the perception that you're not welcome. I personally feel, being a Honduran, I know that I don't feel welcome in this country right now, in this time and period. And I'm pretty sure many share that experience as well. And that's why I share my story for them. So we make sure that as we continue, as a nation, as a state, as a city, right here, that we take these stories and do something about it. To not just feel bad, but to actually call our congressman, be part of it. Because this is a very critical time that we will be remembering in the future. And it's happening in our watch. And no kids should be dying in our watch. So thank you.